And next thing I knew, we were sourcing millions of dollars worth of products. I was always just trying to make my own money. In middle school, I was flipping Beats by Dre headphones, and I had like 15 kids running around campus selling them. And I bought my competitor that was selling all the sunglasses and stuff like that, and I bought them out for like $200, plus I bought his inventory. I was always kind of like just hustling.
I found a guy in China, like, hey, listen, you are talking with them and actually testing the product for me. And then I gave him like a checklist.
Yeah.
And this is how I found out that the product is not for me. What do you think about that?
I think that not really understanding who you're working with is the most common mistake that people are making. Look, I'm going to push them to use you, but like I want to cut, right? So,
really?
Yeah. So
that's a thing?
It's a very, very, very big thing within Chinese manufacturing.
Okay. So we're talking about China.
Yeah.
What do you think about China?
It's getting more expensive to manufacture in China. Egypt or India, it's a tenth of that. Like, how do we work with 5 different factories at once and airship over and have dedicated freight? That was like the ultimate test.
Sitting here with Isaac, alias the sourcing guy. I love that name. We're gonna talk about why your name is the sourcing guy, right? So what I know about your business, right, is that, let me explain real quick before I let you talk. What I know is that, let's say I'm gonna open an online shop and I'm trying to find the product. You are the guy who's helping me to find the product. Is that correct?
Yeah, you got it.
Right?
So trying to make product sourcing easy in every capacity.
Yeah.
So I help find the product as well as manufacture the product and just end up giving a end-to-end solution so brands can focus on every other aspect of building their brand and marketing their brand, and our company takes care of all the supply chain.
Yeah. So we're gonna dive deep into this, okay? But before we jump into this, obviously it would be nice to maybe introduce yourself real quick, right? Because I, like me myself, I don't really know that much about you, man. We met once on a, let's call it a villa party. We spoke for 10 minutes. So yeah, maybe you can give us like a quick introduction.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm Isaac Etzeroni, also known as a sourcing guy. I've been sourcing my entire life. I'm actually the son of factory owners, so I came from a manufacturing family.
Oh, okay.
I grew up originally in Canada, in Toronto, then moved to Montreal, but my grandfather had a very small activewear and dancewear factory in Toronto. So from a super young age, I was in the factory working, helping out, learning about fabrics and silhouettes and learning how to make clothes.
Okay.
And then we eventually we moved to Miami, and around that time, when I was about 10 years old, my dad actually went over to China and opened up his own electronics factory. So that no Chinese partner, nothing, and that was obviously a huge undertaking for him. And then through my entire childhood, I was also trying to help out with that family business, going to China with him, learning about manufacturing, learning the ins and outs of actually running a factory. And I'm super blessed to have that upbringing, and I know that most people don't get that. And then I decided, what if I could take everything I've learned from, these different industries and from manufacturing and provide a service to help people who don't have all that knowledge and experience in the space. So I started my agency, Imprint Genius, about 7 years ago. And, we've been growing ever since. Started in college. We started more in the corporate space, doing more corporate uniforms and swag, and then expanded out to e-commerce and working with e-commerce brands and large companies procuring their products. Yeah. And it's been a fantastic journey.
Amazing. So let's go back to your, so you said you left Canada when you were 10, right?
Yeah.
So how was life actually in Canada for you? Because you said, okay, you kind of grew up with this business, right? Obviously you developed it a bit, right? Or let's say you took it into another way, right? Kind of. But yeah, I mean, how was it to, first of all, leave Canada for you to Miami? First. Second, did you actually go to university, or were you always thinking, because obviously your dad, since he's an entrepreneur, right? So were you always thinking hey, listen, I'm going to do the same thing like my dad is doing, or were you actually thinking maybe I should do something else, or maybe, a professional soccer player, things like this?
So I was really happy that we moved to Miami and just moved to America. I thought there's a lot more opportunity there. Okay. And I just liked the culture and the schooling better. I was because I came from an entrepreneurial family, I always had low ways of making money in businesses through middle school and high school. And I ended up going to college. I went to the University of Florida in Gainesville, and I started my business my freshman year. And there, a lot of people kept on saying, why don't you drop out? You have the whole company. I was able to go and build, a 7-figure business while still in college. And I decided that, it was a goal of mine. I wanted to be able to go and finish school and grow a business at the same time. And the goal was, when I graduate, I don't want to have to get another job. I want to be able to go and just run my business. So having that very clear goal and, having a deadline as well made it, very obtainable, because I knew exactly what I was shooting for.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy I ended up, finishing school, because I was able to apply a lot of what I was learning in school direct to my business. So I'm happy. With it.
Nowadays, many people say, like, I don't really have to go to school, right? You don't really learn something. But I would say there's a lot of like basic things you have to learn in school, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of things. Like, I also went to university, even though I'm not doing anything what I studied, not at all. I'm still happy that I did it, I'm still happy that I went to university. And the thing is, what I want to know is, obviously, okay, you finished university and you were doing business together with your dad, right? Kind of.
So
you were helping
in high school, I was working. I was working for the company in high school.
Yeah.
I was managing like the Amazon portfolio, learning about e-commerce, going to the factory, trying to learn everything I could about the business.
Yeah.
But then once I came to college, I wasn't in South Florida anymore, and I kind of had more free time. And that's why I decided to go and start my own thing.
Okay, so you moved from Miami to Florida
So I moved from Miami to Gainesville, which is where my college was, about 5 hours north.
Okay.
And then from there, I wasn't working with my dad anymore. So
okay. How was that step for you, actually?
It was great. It was great to go to a new environment and be in this place that would really foster entrepreneurship, which is like a college. And I was able to, I started my business, and I hired tons of friends, and we had, discounted offices and resources through the university. So it made it a really easy kind of stepping stone to slowly grow and build.
Yeah, I see. But I just want to know, because obviously when you do, your dad is obviously proud, right? You're doing business with him together. Mm-hmm. And then one day you go to him like, hey, Dad, you know what? I'm going to do this by my own. Like, how did you react on that?
I think that he didn't have the ability to go to college. Because he was working with his dad, right, in the family business, which was the same business technically, but it was different. There was more of like an electronics store in Canada. And he saw that, he regretted not leaving the family business, not doing his own thing and being able to go to college. And so he missed that opportunity. So when I said, this isn't something I want to do, I want to go to college, I want to do my own thing, he really supported that, because it was kind of like the opportunity that he felt like he missed.
Kind of you living his dream.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And he took you to China, right? You told me. When was that? How old were you?
First time was, I think I was 18.
How was China?
Nowadays I go to China all the time, right? And
of course,
it was an amazing experience being able to go really see see factories up front, go to negotiations with suppliers, with buyers, understand like all the dynamics that go into it, and it's what gave me like so much interest and fascination. Because I think a lot of people can feel very disconnected to this whole industry of manufacturing, when it's very complex, interesting space. So I think if I hadn't have gone to China, that like 8 or so years ago, I probably wouldn't have had the interest to like really dive deep and become the sourcing guy.
And okay, you were 18. You go with your dad to China. How was it? Like, did you just follow him? You were like watching how he's working. Or was he actually like, hey, you know what, Isaac? You're going to do this now, You're gonna talk to this guy, you tell him this,
For me, I was more of a fly on the wall. Like, I was coming to meetings, I was learning about what was going on. And, we were going through the production process together to an extent. And I was able to kind of see, potential inefficiencies, learn about different processes in person. So I think it was just what I needed to really be curious and
Yeah, so you did a really good job in teaching you, yeah?
Of course.
Okay, and then we talk about, so you said then you moved away, told your dad, hey, I'm going to do this by my own. Mm-hmm. What was the first step for you? Like, because obviously it's not, you kind of probably had the resources, you have the knowledge, right? But obviously, was it, you knew directly what you want to do? Or was it more like, okay, let's try to figure out what I'm going to do? Like, how was this?
It
you
was
switch?
no, it was a complete accident. I mean, I started.
Okay.
I went to college.
Yeah.
I didn't know I was gonna jump into product sourcing. I started, honestly, it was like freshman year of college, and I found those little fans that plug into your phone. I don't know if you've seen them before. So you plug in the bottom, they shoot like cold air out.
Of course.
And I brought those to like I bought one just because I liked gadgets at the time, and I brought one to a party because it was super hot out in Gainesville, Florida. It's like in the summertime, it's called like the swamp.
Okay.
So, and then next thing I know, I have like 10 girls all around me, all asking me where I got the cell phone fan, and I'm like telling them, oh, you can just buy them on like AliExpress, whatever it is. By like the fifth girl, I was like, you know what? Why don't I just make this? Just tell people I sell them. So I was like, yeah, I'm actually Isaac the fan guy. I sell them. They're $5. Blah blah
Really?
blah. Yeah, so I completely just made up this alias to myself, and I was like, well, look, if all these people want to buy them, why don't I just go and buy 100 and flip them to all these people? Like, clearly there's a need, and Sorority Rush is coming up. Like, I quickly saw that there was like market demand, and all through like middle school and high school, I was always selling little gadgets and products. So I went, and I got everyone's phone numbers or whatever it was. I ordered 100, had them air shipped over, and then sold out in like the first week. And then all my friends saw me like going around the parties, kind of like flipping these cell phone fans, and they're like, oh my God, that's so cool. I want to do that too. So my friends started going and helping me sell the fans, getting a commission on them.
What?
And then it kept on growing. Then we built like a website and this whole like business, selling it to different universities. And then we built this company called Fanguy. This was like summer, like my first semester of college. And then we started getting requests for custom cell phone fans from businesses, and we turned into more of like a promotional merchandise business. And then now we had all these clients, so we started expanding product lines. So I started sourcing more and more products with that knowledge, and then started offering more unique products the whole idea was most giveaways that you get at like events or trade shows are like pens and notebooks, and they typically are pretty boring. So we want to be like the promotional products company that was all focused on really unique source products that no one's ever seen before. Like, has like a wow factor. Mm-hmm. So we unintentionally became, a sourcing company focused on a few different products, and we really focused on that corporate niche and grew within that niche and became well known within the industry.
Yeah.
Rebranded to Imprint Genius, became a well-known player in the promotional product space to get direct sourced unique products. And then through COVID, when COVID hit, a lot of the promotional product and our corporate clients, that started to fizzle out because there weren't events and people were unsure. But at this point, I built a really strong network of people in the e-commerce space because they were the only other people my age that were making money, So all my e-commerce friends during COVID, they were first, all their supply chains were breaking, and they were selling like crazy because, during COVID,
of course,
things were scaling.
Yes.
So I started going and helping some of my e-commerce friends. And next thing I knew, we're sourcing millions of dollars worth of products for these people because they were in these really tough spots.
Yeah.
And luckily, like on top of that, I just had to go home because of COVID. So now I'm home. My dad's factory is shut down. So we're just sitting there. We're getting all these crazy orders coming in. And he's like there kind of coaching me and giving me even more and helping me like process these like really, really complex like how do we work with 5 different factories at once and airship over and have dedicated freight. So it was like that was like the ultimate test.
Yeah.
And it really, really within like that 6-month span, it grew the business substantially, but also helped us, it helped me really hone my sourcing skills. So then once COVID was over and things normalized, it's like, this is easy, after what we've been through and everything I've learned.
Because that was the hardest part.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
And then it really was that realization of like, wait a second, like what I'm really good at, like what my true calling is yes, like we're doing this merchandise, but it's really like product sourcing and pure product sourcing. So how can we go and, how can I rebrand myself? How can I rebrand the business and become, a full-scale sourcing agency and try to work with, the biggest brands of the world and focus on much larger projects and larger deals. And that was like the big step and jump that we made. And it's been an amazing journey because it's way more fun. Yeah. And that's my I guess that's my story of how I got to this point.
That's great. Like, I think it's a really interesting thing that how COVID actually changed so many lives in a positive way.
Yeah.
If you think about it, right? Like, to be honest with you, let's say by the way, enjoy your shisha. This is the first time someone's sitting here with me and actually smoking a shisha. Because before I actually had an second episode, I had an Arab guy.
Yeah.
But the problem is he was fasting Ramadan.
Yeah.
Right, so he couldn't smoke. He was always staring at the shisha. I was like, bro, I'm so sorry, you know.
No.
I feel bad. So enjoy the shisha. I hope you like it. By the way, also before we continue, real quick, I bought you something. I don't know if you like them. Do you like them?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah?
Thank you, man.
Actually, I was buying some high quality coconut water, but I forgot it at home. So on the way here, I was like, okay, let's get him at least some hydro cocoa, so he's hydrated. Okay, let's jump back into it. So that whole thing started with actually you went on the party with a fan, right? And they were like, what do you say?
I think the fan guy.
Yeah.
People called me the fan guy for like
Still, no.
Some people still call as like a joke.
Yeah.
But people like a lot of people in their phones. I'm still the fan guy. A lot of my friends from like freshman year, stuff like that. Like everyone called me fan guy for like the longest time.
That's actually insane, yeah.
And then it just transitioned to the sourcing guy. I felt like a natural, you know.
And so what I've understood now is, okay, jumping into the COVID part, you said that, okay, you had a lot of e-commerce friends. They had a problem with China, right? Yeah. So you were basically trying to help them out, still delivering products. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. And how did you manage that?
So with COVID, you know, everyone's supply chains broke. Different areas, you know, countries completely shut down, and then certain areas of China shut down. So the biggest thing that we did during COVID was really figure out the logistics of being able to get the products into the U.S. Because a lot of factories were still running. The issue was the ports were hyper congested, and then the domestic routes were also, you know, taking a long time. So people need to go and get product fast. So what we built is we built a solution where we're, you know, either air shipping or fast ocean. And we're utilizing Mats and Fastline. And Mats and Fastline at the time, you know, they still do, but they have dedicated lines, dedicated ports. So it's a more expensive shipping solution. But when ports are hyper congested, you know, especially like LA port, being able to go and use Mats, and we knew that there was going to be way less congestion and the goods were going to be stuck for less time waiting.
Yeah.
Then we had dedicated truckers. So we have the ability to go and book our own private trucks. So we had private trucks that were waiting at the port in these lines, some of them for days, like literally like for full days. So we had these truckers waiting for days. And then once it was good, even if the truck was a third full, we put it in, and then we're trucking straight, right? So again, it was a more premium, like it was expensive to execute on, but the clients ended up just needing the product as fast as possible, and they're willing to pay a premium for it. So we were able to charge a premium. The clients, it was our resolution to how we were able to go and kind of pull off miracles within it. And then we also, you know, a lot of times for really rapid production, you know, manufacture with multiple factories and have them create very, very similar products across the lines, do consolidation, and then go and bring it in.
You're talking about all these things, but for this you need a network, right? Mm-hmm. You need to know all of these things also. So how many years are we talking about since you started this thing until COVID, right? How many years is that?
3 years.
So within 3 years,
you
taught all of this by yourself. Is that correct?
Well, don't forget, I was also working for a factory before that, you know? And I also had my dad as a resource to go and like, hey, my stuff's stuck. What do I do? Right. Yeah. And again, like that's why I don't like hide behind that. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, I did self-made. Like, no, like I was very blessed to have the upgrowing and had the resources, and I just, you know, use them to the best of my abilities.
Okay, got it. So basically the foundation is your dad, right?
Yeah.
Because we're actually talking about, I mean, COVID, right? Even me, I tried dropshipping for like, I'd say 6 months or something like this during COVID. And I was experiencing this problem myself. Obviously, I was trying to bring the products to Europe. I don't know if you're talking about international, right?
Yeah.
Right. But like Europe was a big problem. I was waiting for the products like 30 days.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, it's hard to sell a product when you have to tell the client like, hey, listen, you have to wait 30 days because of COVID, right? Then they will not understand. So, I mean, managing these kind of problems is obviously and I don't even how many companies are we talking about actually? How many companies were you actually managing the whole, or like, let's say, because there were a lot of companies with this issue, right?
Yeah.
So
we're working with tons of different brands across different verticals. But at this point, I had a whole team that, you know, like went and I built out. We had a lot of infrastructure throughout the company. We had employees and we had help. And it was COVID. And there's nothing else to do. So I was just working from when I woke up, and I was staying up all night dealing with China, so it was just straight hustle.
Yeah.
It's
Every day.
fun time, every day.
Yeah. And how big was the team?
At that point, I think we were like 6 or 7 people.
Oh, that's actually not that big.
Yeah.
I was thinking about like the way you're talking about it, I was like 50 people or something.
Oh, no.
Okay, that's actually crazy. So with 6 or 7 people, you were managing all of these.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And you built the team, managing the team.
Yeah, exactly.
And all of this, like this was this team was the foundation of the whole thing you're doing right now?
Exactly.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, amazing. Listen, I'm going to give you $1,000. Yep, you heard that right. And here's how you can grab it. Just create clips you enjoyed from the podcast. Upload it to YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. And for every video you reshare that gets 1 million views, I will give you $1,000. But hey, there's more. Every month, the most clicked clip creator will back $500 on top. Please just don't forget the magic hashtag #TalkAndDo on all your posts. That's your entry ticket into this competition. It is time to turn your creativity into cash. Good luck.
I was always just trying to make my own money.
Yeah.
From like in middle school, I was flipping Beats by Dre headphones, and I had like 15 kids running around campus selling them, and I bought my competitor that was selling all the sunglasses and stuff like that, and I bought them out for like $200 plus I bought his inventory. So I was always kind of like just hustling.
Yeah.
And just figure out ways to make my own money. And then it just kind of eventually just grew into a real business.
That's actually interesting. Obviously not everyone is thinking like that, right? As you know, there's some people that just go to school, they just go to university, they're just trying to find like the 9-to-5 job, right? So not like your network also, or like your environment in your school, university, you had like the same kind of people around you?
Well, that was the thing. So because I started so young, and I started my freshman year of college, and I branded ourselves well. I got into an accelerator program. There's like a national student startup accelerator. Okay. That was based out of Chicago, my freshman year of college. And then I was in the accelerator program for all 4 years of school. So they were flying us out to Chicago. Shout out Future Founders. They were flying us out to Chicago like multiple times a year. So I built this really cool friend group of people around the country that were also these like young entrepreneurs that were really,
nice.
And then I started, doing a lot more entrepreneurial, like playing together entrepreneurial events within college and that campus. And then I had my fraternity. And so I was able to very quickly build up my network and surround myself with the right people. And I think that that's like a really, really, crucial thing. So like if you're in college and you want to go and start your business, like you do this as soon as possible, because it's going to be like a little resume for you. And it's going to open up so many doors, because past college, there's so many people that have businesses. But when you're a really young entrepreneur and you're in school, there's all these different events and programs, and your business doesn't have to be that successful yet. Just the fact that you went and started something decent, now you can be surrounded by all these other young hustlers. And then those people, stay close to you, and then you all watch each other build, and your network becomes their network. And by the time, you become like into your mid-20s or 30s, I feel like my network, because I started earlier, is probably like 5 times the size that it would have been if I started my business right when I graduated.
So how is it actually that if you, let's say you are in class, you talk about like, hey, I'm doing my own thing, I'm trying to build my own thing, right? Are the teachers actually, like they're trying to support you? They're like trying to understand what you do there? Because for example, in Germany, I'm talking about my experience, right? They're always telling you like, hey, listen, you have to try to study as long as possible, and then try to find a job at obviously we have really good companies in Germany, Mercedes, or like work at BMW or something like this, right? This is your goal. You have to work there, and then that's it. That's your life goal, right? So they're not really trying to, I wouldn't really say that teachers and professors or whatever, they are trying to support you when it comes to like, hey, this kid is actually trying to build something his own, Mm-hmm. How is it actually in America?
I'd say that it's probably the best place to be an entrepreneur, especially a young entrepreneur. I think it varies college to college and professor to professor. Of course. But I think that they do support you for the most part, especially if you make it very apparent that you're looking for the support and you make it very clear that you are serious. So, like one thing that I did throughout my college that was really, really helpful was whenever we had a class project, specifically in the business school, and let's say the project was, let's say it was in sales class, right? Because I took like a bunch of sales courses, and it was, pick a, big company, and then you have to build a sales funnel, or you have to build a cold calling script for
wow.
that business. I went to the professor and said, look, I would really, really appreciate it if I could utilize my own business as the example business and build a sales script around this. Why?
Yeah.
Because first, I'm going to take the project a lot more seriously. And second, I'll be able to actually use this and give this to my sales team, who are other students.
I love that.
Yeah, and then some of them said no, but the majority said yes. So what happened then? So then what used to be homework, which would take away from my business, now was me
combining two things.
Yeah, and I was being forced to go and build the foundations. I was in management class. Now I'm learning management principles. I'm implementing new pieces. I have to build marketing plans around my business. That was super helpful for me to build the foundation of my company, and it made school interesting, because when you're talking about, other companies or things that aren't as relevant to you, you aren't processing the information, you're memorizing. But when you're applying knowledge that you're learning, that's when it actually seeps in and you learn it. And that's why I tell people, like, if you can start a business in college and you're like doing a business degree, it's the best thing you can do, because it'll actually stick with you, what you're learning.
And how the teachers actually reacting on that? I mean, you said some of them, they said no, but the ones who said yes.
They thought it was great, especially if they were entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
A lot of my teachers that I had, and I would seek them out, right? I would find out who are like the biggest entrepreneurs who aren't teaching because they need the money. They're doing it because they really love it.
Yeah.
And how can I take every single class that they offer?
Really?
Right? So that was like my goal. And I found a couple of professors at the University of Florida that were very successful entrepreneurs. And I did what I could to become very close with them and take all of their classes, and also seek them out as mentors.
Yeah.
So it was great as well, because I was able to go and be able to go to my sales professor and be like, hey, can I come to your office hours, and can we talk about my business, and can you mentor me in this different capacity? Because you have all these field experts for the most part, and they're there to help you. You just have to take advantage of it. You have to take advantage of anything in life. You take advantage of the resources that you have.
That's it's really interesting the way you are studying, the way you are seeing things, like, already in this young age, right? So what I really want to know is, like, obviously, I mean, me from Europe watching over to America, I'm seeing all those movies, like, what is it? This
American Pie.
American Pie, for example,
Yeah.
right? So you were like, I would love to study in America, to have this life, right? Partying every day and stuff like this. Because, like, right now, the way you're describing your journey is more like you are always business, trying to improve yourself, business, right? Did you actually also, like, enjoy the time during college, like while you're studying, and were you actually going party like hard, like every day?
I partied my ass off in college. I had a great time. You have to realize our first office for the company was the mechanical closet of my fraternity house.
Okay.
And for years, the legal address of our business was 501 Fraternity Drive, my old big ass frat house in college. And I used to have suppliers come to try to do visits and pull up to our fraternity house completely flustered of like, this can't be right. And then like knocking on the door, is Imprint Genius here? Oh yeah, it's Isaac, he's in room 32. And then like they go into the little closet, and it's kind of a laugh, but I think it's all about balance. And what was nice about being in Greek life as well was that I always had the ability to socialize. So they were always coordinating events and parties and all that kind of stuff. So I didn't have to like go and just chill on the couch all day. Like I was focused on my business, but like when I wanted to go socialize, I had that friend group. I had those people outside of like my business circle where I could go and get that college experience, but then also, balance that with work and school and all that.
Okay, so you were able to balance it even though you had all of this traction you want yourself, right?
Yeah. It was also great because so I was learning about how to build the business, and my fraternity needed t-shirts and different products to go and create. So I just told my fraternity, I'm like, hey, I'm going to become t-shirt chair, and I'm going to go and make all the shirts, and I'm not going to take any margin on the stuff, right? I'm going to give all the extra money to the fraternity. But if I mess up, hey, let's not get too mad at me, right? And that was kind of like the deal. So I made a lot of mistakes learning how to make the shirts, but I had like a perfect kind of way of doing it, and that helped me, build the foundation. So when I started taking on actual clients and we started actually like growing more in those different categories, I had experience in that.
Okay, so I mean, we talked a bit now about COVID and stuff. Obviously, COVID is, 4 years ago now, right? So how would you describe your business model now? Like, how is it going now? How deep? I mean, obviously, now you're telling us that you are handling a lot of bigger companies, right?
Yeah.
International. So maybe you can describe a bit more about your business model right now. Like, how is it all going? How big is the team now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it, because obviously you're talking about 4 years, a lot of things changed, right?
Yeah. So I think our team is a lot more experienced and strategic, right? We're around 12 people right now, but now we're opening up an office in China, and that's going to be a really big jump. But from us, it's not about number of clients anymore. It's just servicing much larger accounts.
Yeah.
And so like the kind of solutions that we're building are more to solve larger global problems. So, like for example, we're working on piloting this new program with this like $100 billion company, like really, really big global company.
Can you
that
talk about?
It's not closed yet, so I can't say who, right? But soon.
Yeah.
And the structure of it is that we, instead of merchandise being produced in the US or Europe, we're able to go and build a global individual parcel merchandise fulfillment solution where we're producing all the merchandise for this large enterprise company in China, and then we're warehousing it with a 3PL capabilities to then ship globally on an individual parcel level all the merchandise to all the different employees when they need a polo or a t-shirt or things for events, as well as large inventory being held for all of their events. So when they need to get 1,000 water bottles shipped to Singapore, and then they need 1,000 t-shirts shipped over to Dubai, wherever it is, we're able to go and do that. And through that, we're able to save our clients like 30+% over their old solutions, as well as become a lot more efficient. So it's moved from, helping people that are just going and starting brands, and we'll do that to an extent. But now we're really thinking, how can we utilize our experience of like global supply chain and manufacturing to build new kinds of solutions that don't exist. Like that, what I just explained to you does not exist in the industry. It does not exist.
Okay.
No one offers that kind of solution. So we want to go and take the fact that we have this really, really strong like sourcing team, and then apply that to legacy, like the more legacy type businesses like corporate merchandise where we started, and be able to, solve really big problems.
How did you come to this point that you say, okay, let's focus on this more?
I think focus is the hardest thing about business, right?
Yeah.
There's so many different opportunities, and we're still, our hands are already in too many pieces, but it's really about, what is the biggest impact we can make at the highest profitability, that's the easiest for us to execute, and we have the largest kind of moat around where no one else can compete. So we were just evaluating a lot of different areas of how we want to focus as a business, and we decided like it's solving problems for really large e-commerce brands. So like another thing is like we'll take over the supply chain for a large brand and handle all the manufacturing, handle all the shipping logistics.
Yeah.
And because if you can create efficiencies within these very large companies, and we can save, let's say 10, 15, 20% on the cost of goods, when you're purchasing $10 million a year, those little percentages are huge amounts of money that are saved. But by just utilizing best practices and creating small changes in efficiencies, it's a lot of money. But when we work with smaller brands, they don't have the economies of scale, and where, those small percentages make as big of a difference. So what we realize is by working bigger, it's actually more effective, and we can solve bigger problems with a smaller team, and, just less stress. Honestly.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, this is a really unique business you're doing, right? And you and your team is doing. So I guess also the audience, they want to know, like, how do you exactly do money with this business, right? Like, do you just get like fees from everything, or like, do you get like a one-time, like, how is it working?
Yeah. So when we work with corporate clients, we just, our margin is baked into it, right? They don't want transparency. We just act as a vendor, and we're going to sell the product, right? So we might buy the product for $1 and sell it for $1.50. You know, that's more of the model there.
Yeah.
But with the corporate clients, sometimes we can maintain a really high margin because our competitors in the space are other promotional products companies who are sourcing domestically. So we have a huge cost advantage as well as a quality advantage. Mm-hmm. When we work with e-commerce brands, especially the larger ones, I don't agree with a standardized markup. I don't agree with not having full transparency. Now we work with full transparency with our larger clients, where they know exactly where they're manufacturing, they know exactly the COGS, they know everything about it, and we're there to simply add value. So we take a percentage, like an agency fee percentage, that's separate,
Okay.
to create all the efficiencies, do all the product sourcing, do all the management,
Yeah.
and act as essentially their sourcing team.
Yeah.
Because normally what happens is big brands, they might go and hire 1 or 2 people to go and manage sourcing or production. But for us, we have experts in all these different verticals
Okay.
and all these different processes and parts of the process. So when you hire us instead, we're a lot of times like replacing what employees would be doing at a company, but you're getting fractional. You're getting a fractional shipping logistics manager. You're getting a fractional production manager. You're getting a fractional sourcing manager. You're getting, US-based account managers. So that's where we provide the value. And again, having it fully transparent, we think is kind of the future and the way to do it.
That's also something really interesting because I want to touch base on that. Let's make an example.
Yeah.
Okay. Just started my own brand. I do, sportwear, for example.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm kind of starting researching a bit, what kind of products could I sell, right? Mm-hmm. And then obviously first thing is like, let's go to China.
Yeah.
Let's try to find the right supplier for me and make my own brand, right?
Yeah.
So the thing is, what I want to understand now is, why would I come to you, right? Like, why should I not, where should I make the decision, it makes way more sense to come to Isaac, the sourcing guy,
Yeah.
and actually let him help me instead of me going to China, or maybe I have some contacts, right? Mm-hmm. It just makes more sense to do it with you,
Well, we call ourselves our curators of quality.
Yeah.
So is it hard to go on Alibaba and find a pair of leggings? Yes. But is it hard to find the best leggings in the world or the best products within the specific category? That's tricky. How do you make sure that you're finding, the best quality, the price ratio with the most professional factories that work with all the biggest brands? And also, how are you able to work with these? A lot of these factories are going to have huge minimums, right? To work with them, they're going to be very, very hard to reach out to. But because we have the relationship and because we have shared volume across our other clients, we allow our clients to then unlock access to certain factories. Like an example is we work super closely with the factory that produces for Skims. Mm-hmm. That factory you try to reach out to them, good luck. They're not talking to any new clients.
Really, yeah?
Right, and their MOQs are very high.
Okay.
But because we do business with them, we have a good relationship with them. You want to go and make shapewear, you go through us, instantly can go and get samples. Your MOQs are almost half of what it would be if you went directly. And we can also potentially share volume or share production, so to get it even lower. So it's really about simplifying the back and forth of being like, I want to go and launch and I want to focus on quality and I want to get going. The other reason people come to us is if they're trying to add products into their existing product line that they aren't super comfortable with. So an example would be, let's say you are that activewear brand, mm-hmm. and you found a fantastic supplier for your women's wear. Great.
Okay.
But what happens when you want to go and expand that? You want to add hats and yoga blocks and yoga mats and different active equipment.
And my supplier don't do it.
Yeah, and drinkware. Your supplier wouldn't, right? Because they're specialized in just that vertical.
Got it.
But so you would have to go and learn everything about yoga mats and learn everything about drinkware and all these other verticals when you just need a easy private label solution. And that's why it's very easy for us. Now we can come in and be like, okay, perfect. We're going to help you add these additional auxiliary products, or we're going to help you build out your men's line or in these different categories that you're not comfortable with.
Yeah.
And we're going to help you do it fast because we already have the catalogs ready. Everything's ready for private label. And it just makes that whole process very easy. And then the last thing is that they're dealing with Americans. They're dealing with a U.S. company.
It's also
so it's more comfortable for
I
a
see
lot
what
of
you mean,
companies as well, because it's like, okay, I can go and send them $100,000 and I know I'm getting my product. I know it's going to be delivered at the right time. If not, I can sue them, right? No, I hope you guys don't sue me, right? But technically you can, and that's another reason why people use this is for that peace of mind, because a lot of times whatever we're charging, you might be losing in, defective product. You might be losing in late shipments. You might be losing in the goods not coming in the right color.
Yep.
That is a cost, and we minimize that risk. So even if you're paying more, at the end of the day, when you look at all the numbers, by utilizing an agency like us, you're saving while also not having to do any of the hard stuff.
Okay, let's go back to the example.
Yeah.
Right? I have my spot active wear, right? Obviously, you're also helping, you're already helping other brands who's doing the same thing, right? Mm-hmm. So isn't there a conflict of interest?
So there is a conflict of interest in the fact that, but we have a strict NDAs with all of our clients.
Okay.
So we don't talk about what we're making for other clients unless the clients specifically ask of being like, hey, we want to launch this new product. Do you know anyone else that wants to share the volume with us? Because the MOQs are high. That'd be the only time where we talk about other products we're doing for other types of clients. And we realized that we had to be very strict, and there are the reasons why I don't run any brands. We don't start brands. Every day people ask me, why don't you have all these supply chains, you have all these products, why don't you start your own brands?
Of course, yeah.
Because it's a conflict of interest. I want to just be focused on sourcing, and if I have all this data into all my clients' Shopifys and all these products and what's selling and what's not selling, and then I start going and selling competing products against my clients, how do you think the client's going to feel? Are they going to be able to trust me with all that information? So I'm like, no, we're going to focus on sourcing and we're going to be the best at that.
So what do you say is the number one tip for people who are trying to source products overseas?
Yeah, number one tip for sourcing products overseas is hire a third-party inspection agency. Okay. So people don't realize that you could hire these companies. It's only about $200 to $300 a day, and they'll go in and act on your behalf and actually inspect the product or the factory for you. So you can go in and make sure the factory is up to a certain spec and make sure you're dealing with, a very viable, proper, professional factory, as well as they can check the product. So you can go and give them specifications of how the product's supposed to look, how it's supposed to act, and they're also going to have their own ways of testing the goods, and they're going to go and rate the products as a pass or fail. And so if the products fail inspection, then they're going to go and actually tell the factory to go and redo the products. And it's a really great way to make sure that your products are fixed and right before they actually go and ship out, and make sure that the pants you ordered in blue are in green, or there aren't loose threads everywhere, or the imprint is correct. And so a lot of people go and they'll spend $50,000, $100,000 on a shipment, and it goes and arrives to the US and it's all wrong, when they could have just spent $200-300 on an inspection company and checked the goods before they ever left China and found the issue. And, I think that 80% of problems that people have within sourcing could be prevented with just that one tip.
All right. And what would you say is the most common mistake people do when sourcing products?
The most common mistake people make when sourcing products is not understanding who their supplier is. So they'll go and place these massive orders without seeing the factory, without really knowing if they're even working with a factory, without understanding if that factory specializes in that product. And it's a very easy solution. Nowadays, you have an iPhone. The iPhone has a camera, and you have something called FaceTime. Or in China, you have WeChat. So what people don't realize is you could just FaceTime your suppliers and meet them face-to-face, talk to them, and have them show you around the factory. And it's such an easy step, and people just don't go through that process. And a lot of times you can learn so much about the factory, and so much that, you could learn that you don't want to work with that factory, because you're going to go through and you might see, a non-clean production line. You might see that, they're claiming that they produce 1 million units a year and there's 30 people on the line. They might say, yeah, we specialize in hoodies, and they're making backpacks on the line. These are all things that I've seen in person. And I think that not really understanding who you're working with is the most common mistake that people are making.
Correct me. Maybe I didn't, because actually I want to, because you're the expert. So I want to know, what do you think about that? Because I told you a bit about, before this podcast, I told you about my technical product, right?
Yeah.
And I'm getting it from Europe.
Yeah.
But obviously I was considering China. I was like, okay, maybe I can get it in China. 3 times less the costs.
Yeah.
it's closer to Bali. Why wouldn't I do that?
Yeah.
Right? So what I did is I found a guy in China, like living close to the manufactory, and he's a product tester. So I was contacting him and I was like, hey, listen, is there any chance you can actually go to the manufactory? You will act as if you are part of my company.
Yeah.
Right? And you are talking with them and actually testing the product for me, and then I gave him like a checklist.
Yeah.
You know? And this is how I found out that the product is not for me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? What do you think about that?
So that's fantastic. But I think that you don't have to go and find that person. You can just hire a very reputable third-party inspection company for like the $200 a day, and then they can go and do those tests for you. But the benefit of having a reputable third party is that a lot of times when you hire Chinese buyers to kind of act on your behalf, they might go to the factory and ask for kickbacks and be like, look, I'm going to push them to use you, but like I want a cut, right? So,
really?
Yeah. So
that's a thing?
It's a very, very, very big thing within Chinese manufacturing.
Okay.
Are kickbacks within buyers. It's like part of the job, essentially.
Okay.
And it's one of the main reasons why a lot of our buyers that we are actually not based in China. And our team that we're building in China is going to be very focused on quality control and very focused on like the sampling process and not the actual negotiations with the factories. When you hire just third-party inspection, all their job is just to do the inspection process. You can run into less issues. But I'm not saying that I did that, right? But, and also...
No, I mean, it's still a really good tip, right?
Yeah.
However, like, okay, so let's say I contacted you for this.
Yeah.
Right? Instead of this Chinese guy. And I was like, hey, can you test the product for me? Mm-hmm. But how long would the whole process take? Because this guy was close to the manufacturer. So I was like, okay, this is done within 24 hours, right? Yeah. So what about you?
So it's not me. So I hire third-party inspection companies, and they have thousands of reps that are all in every major city in China, and then they deploy the right person. So they'll deploy the person who deals with electronics within that specific city, and then they go and do the test for you.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so you are 100%, or like you can secure that I will 100% know if this product is good or bad because you know exactly this guy who is doing that for me.
The thing is that there's no 100% in sourcing. Okay. But at the end of the day, you're hiring a professional inspection agency, that's going to be going in and running the specific tests that you're looking for. And I find them to be, very good at understanding the testing instruments, understanding the specific product types, especially when you don't know what to look for and how to test it. So it's never like a for sure thing, but I like the different services out there.
But is it also that let's go back to the example, are you also going to assist me or like support me in terms of when it goes to the criteria of checking the product, right? Because obviously I gave him a checklist, right? But I mean, is the checklist really good? It's the first time me actually analyzing a product, right? And you are the specialist, like you're the expert, right? So are you also supporting with that?
Yeah, of course. Okay. We're going and working with the inspection company and making sure, and especially if there's been issues in the past, like that's the biggest thing, is if you're consistently seeing problems within your manufacturing process that needs to be within the checklist and needs to be brought up so that it's caught right away. And you can also have them once you understand your manufacturing process as well, you can have people going in during certain portions of the process. Because let's say you're producing something that's sublimated, right? A sublimated product.
Yep.
A lot of times they don't do sublimation in-house. They're going to go and produce the raw material of the product, and then they're going to send it off for the sublimation. So if the problem is always within specifically the sublimation printing, you have someone go in and go specifically to the factory that's doing the sublimation and have them watch the goods coming off. That way they can hopefully see the problem happening before it actually arises, before all the goods are printed and ruined. And then now you're stopping a huge issue and like having to throw out these goods because you can't really resublimate something.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I think I kind of understand, or like I think I really like you explained it really well what exactly you're doing, right? But now I also want to touch base on the location we are at right now, right? Because we're in Bali. When was the first time you actually heard about Bali?
First time I heard about Bali, I think I read like the 4-Hour Workweek. Freshman year of college, and that became like a Bible for me all throughout, just like following that, and I wanted that lifestyle. And I kept on hearing that kind of Bali was that mecca for the 4-Hour Workweek lifestyle, for the digital nomad lifestyle. And I met a guy, Paulie Long, who lives here, but I met him at an event like years and years ago in LA, And then he moved there, so I'm seeing his stories. I'm like, this looks so cool. Like, eating all the sushi for so cheap. That's so fun. So it was kind of like a goal where I was running the business, and it was like, I want to go and move to Bali and run my business from Bali. And so every big decision I had to make, do I take investors on? Do we open up our own operations domestically, whatever it is? It was like, well, I could do that. It might be good for the business, but is it good for my lifestyle? Is it good for me to have the ability to eventually move to Bali? And I made sure that like everything I was doing was aligned for that. And then I went on the big sourcing trip. So we had like a big, nice office in Gainesville. We had like 15 employees in the office. It was like a whole operation there for a while. And then I shut it all down, moved everything full remote, and decided if I want to be the very best at product sourcing, I need to be in the factories. So I went and I traveled all throughout Asia, visiting factories for about 8 months. And I was visiting factories in Sri Lanka, in Cambodia, in Thailand.
I saw your reels.
Yeah.
Right? It's
all
so
kinds of stuff. That was like super enlightening.
Yeah.
But eventually I got burned out, and I was like, okay, I just want to get to Bali. So Bali was still, I had to like quarantine. I was there during COVID. And
wait, you were here 2020? No, 2021?
2021.
Okay.
Yeah. And end of it, or maybe just the beginning of 22.
Okay.
Yeah, like right around there, and went through a little quarantine, got in, and realized that this is kind of the perfect place for me with my kind of business to run, because I'm surrounded by, obviously other e-commerce entrepreneurs, the right kind of people for the business that I do. I'm also very, very close to almost every Asian manufacturing hub. I could be in China in 5 hours if I need to. And I'm very close to our team in the Philippines and all these different things. So I realized, and I'm in the same time zone as Asia. So like, what if I spend, half my year here, the other half of the year in the US, and live this kind of joint lifestyle? And it's been, one of the best things I've ever done.
And how do you manage with the time zones? Obviously, we're talking about like almost, I think, 12-hour difference, right? So how do you manage that this year?
I like it. So for me, I work until about 12:30. So I'll do calls. My Calendly, I have like a Calendly, so it's available for U.S. morning time and U.S. nighttime. And people are able to go, and typically they find time, right, in the morning to go and chat with me. But I also have, obviously, like I have people in the U.S. and sales team and that kind of stuff. So if anything needs to be done past when I go to bed, like other people take those calls. And then during the day, what's nice is now, like right now, it's the middle of a work day. Yeah. And I don't have to stress about any fires going off. I'm not stressed about my phone.
Makes sense.
I can just enjoy the sunshine, enjoy being out. And I think that's like, probably how it should be, right? Yeah. Like, yes, we originally started in this 9 to 5 work cycle because you have to work before there were artificial light, right? And people were like doing labor outdoors and like those kinds of industries.
Yeah.
But nowadays, don't you think that you should be outdoors and having your free time when it's sunny out and like enjoying nature, and then when it's dark out, maybe working on whatever your job is?
Yeah.
I think that's the better alternative. But I think that's going to be a really big shift, and I don't think it's going to be a while before that actually happens. So I'm just kind of taking a jump on it.
And talking about the first time you came to Bali, right? Stepped your foot into Bali, and then you were like, okay, this is the place. Was it like this?
Yeah, instantly. Like after like 2 or 3 days, I'm like, okay.
Really?
Yep.
And how has actually Bali influenced your life, personal and business?
I think that I have a much better work-life balance ever since moving to Bali, because I'm able to, again, be outdoors and be in nature and spend time in the sunshine, and then limit my calls to just like being at night or in the mornings. It also helps me time manage, right? Because if I only have a few hours in Eastern time to like be really working, I'm going to make sure that those hours are hyper effective, and I'm grinding. I'm getting as much stuff done as possible in that time frame, and I'm being very selective on how I utilize the time and who I have calls with. And then during the day, that's when I can do my deeper work, right? And it's very hard sometimes during the workday when you have calls and you have all these different things that are coming up. How do you go and get into that proper deep work and do that work that's going to actually move your business forward? It's very difficult to manage the two together. So because I don't have any calls or anything to really do during the day, I can have a goal and be like, okay, today during the day, I'm going to get done this hard thing.
Yeah.
And it ends up being a more effective way to really get things done on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, makes sense. Of course, yeah. And there's two sides Bali offers, right? You can actually go party every day. You can go out every day. You can go to Samba every day, live your life, right? Was it like this for you in the beginning when you came here? Or were you directly like focused on work? Because you also had, like, you talked about your environment. You had people here already, right?
I think it probably took me a month where, originally I'm here, I'm partying, I'm having a good time.
Yeah.
But once I started being surrounded by the right people and building my friend group and then getting a house together with other entrepreneurs who are very focused around work, then I was able to kind of build that, efficient lifestyle. And nowadays, I live in a huge villa with a bunch of entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
It's like 8 of us.
Yeah.
This big house, and everyone is hyper focused. It's almost hard to get people to go out and like even go out to dinner. Everyone's just focused on just like building their businesses, and it's a really good environment because it kind of keeps you in check. And everyone's very skilled in their specific fields. It's not like everyone has the same skill set. So we're all helping each other build our businesses, and it's a very positive environment.
There's a lot of people out there. Let's say they want to kind of have like the similar lifestyle like you, right? They have the opportunity, or like they want to have the opportunity to live in Bali or something like that. What kind of advice or like strategy you would give them on the way?
Yeah, what people have to understand about Bali and running your business is that because it's so much cheaper to live here,
yes,
you can go and be running a very lean, not that profitable business, but still be self-sufficient. Because let's say you go and you start your own business on the side and you're living in New York, right? And you're trying to go, and your cost of living in New York is like at the minimum, let's call it $7,000 or $8,000 a month, right? But so you have to go and build a side hustle that's netting $8,000 a month, which typically is a business that's going to require employees or help and like a pretty large operation to make that much profit at the end of the day. Or in Bali, $2,000 a month, you can get along fine.
100%.
So how much harder is it to build a business that makes $8,000 a month or a business that makes $2,000 or $3,000 a month?
Yeah.
$2,000 a month is one good social media management client, right?
I agree.
$8,000 a month is a whole agency that you have to go and scale out.
Yeah.
So when people go and want to start their own business and they're focused on trying to hit that minimum so they can quit their other job, it's very, very difficult to build that part-time. But if you know that, hey, the cost of living in Bali is $2,000, all I need to do is build my side hustle to be making $2,000 or $3,000 a month, or even less, you have some savings. And now I can quit my full-time job, move to Bali, focus, and build my agencies from there, build my business from there, and take control of my life.
Yeah, it's insane, right? Like what kind of a cheat code Bali is,
100%.
Right? It's insane. Like then, and not only that, it's also that the type of people you meet here. Like me, always comparing to Germany, it's like the complete opposite, right? I mean, the way you're describing America a bit, obviously, I mean, you choose a really good environment, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't really know if it's like that we're talking literally about like you go here in Bali, you go to a coffee place and you could literally meet someone who you potentially start a business with, Or like something like this happens, Like I'm just going to a random villa party and I meet you and I'm like, okay, now we're sitting here talking about like your business model, right? Mm-hmm. Which is Bali, Yeah. Anyway, is there anything like in terms of future projects? What are the next steps for you?
I mean, really try and invest into content and really build a lot of resources for people to go and source products. We're launching our full product sourcing protocol in a few weeks. And what that is, it's like a true step-by-step protocol that you can follow on the side and utilize when you're sourcing products to not make any mistakes and source hyper effectively. And it's the method that my team uses to actually go and source products. So we're opening that up to people, letting people go and use that. And we're hoping that's going to like really, really reduce people's, waste and make it way easier to source products. We're excited for that. I'm also working now with, governments to be able to go and go to those countries and shoot content and make content about how to manufacture in those places. So we just did that with the Colombian government. Where we worked with them. They brought us out to Colombia. They brought us out to a lot of their top factories. They brought us to a trade show. And now we're going to be working on content to teach people, hey, if you want to source from Colombia, these are the products you're going to be sourcing, the best categories, and this is how to do it. These are the intricacies of working in this country. The goal is to do that and build a video series of all these top manufacturing countries around the world.
Yeah.
And really try to, kind of democratize all this information. Because sourcing from China there's a lot of resources. You have Alibaba, you have trade assurance, you have a lot of freight forwarding. People understand, and there's a lot of education on how to source. But you want to source from Bangladesh, you want to source from Cambodia, you want to source from Ghana. People don't know the first thing about it, and there's no real way to do it. But if we can go and learn it and build the resources around it, now we can actually, I think, by doing that, potentially create millions of jobs and then have people start looking outside of China and looking at all these other countries as really viable places to manufacture. So I think it's kind of going to be like my new life goal is to make it more accessible for people to utilize all these other countries for manufacturing.
So we're talking about China.
Yeah.
What do you think about China in general? Do you think China, what about the future of China?
So I think that people talk a lot about China not being, the next place to manufacture products. I think it depends. I think China is still the king of manufacturing because they have the infrastructure and they have the resources and components. So when you create a product, you need to be able to get the fabrics from somewhere. You need to be able to get the components that go into your iPhone, etc. So even if you go and you manufacture products in Vietnam or Sri Lanka or Thailand, all these other places, for the most part, the fabrics or the materials are still coming from China. Okay. So there still is some level of dependency. And the other benefit about China is the infrastructure from a logistics perspective. Nowadays, you have these large 3PLs, and we're partnered with one now, that can go and inventory products for you, and it can be full retail branded goods. So it's like a way of drop shipping, and they're able to go and deliver goods to the US in 3 to 5 days for $5, $6, $7 a parcel. And the shipment comes with a US label. So customers are actually buying products that are being made in China and warehoused in China and then dispatched, and they get a USPS label, and they think it came from LA, right? From a warehouse in New Jersey. But no, it came from a factory in China. It's just gotten so efficient from a logistics perspective that companies are seeing these huge benefits to actually warehousing in China instead. You
think this will always be like this?
Yes, I think that this is going to become the way that people go and manufacture. I think that there's going to be more and more, in Vietnam, they're starting to pop up more facilities like this in Vietnam as well. It's going to be the more efficient way for a lot of, especially lightweight products. That's the way that they're going to be produced and distributed, because you have huge cost advantages and cash flow advantages to fulfill goods from the same country that's being manufactured. Yeah. Additionally, we're in a trade war right now with China. So you get hit with a lot of products, you get hit with a 25% tariff on it. But in the tax code, any parcel that comes in from China to the US that's under $800 is tax-free. So for a lot of products that are lightweight and high tariff, you're saving a huge amount of money on your taxes by fulfilling from China versus fulfilling from the US. So it actually can be cheaper to do it that way, as well as, more efficient from a business perspective.
All right, but now we talked about the positive sides from China, right? But what about obviously there's a lot of people complaining about China, right? So what do you see as the negative points having China as your supplier?
Yeah, so from, it's obviously a different mindset within China. Yeah. It's getting more expensive to manufacture in China, so your labor cost is about $1,200 to $1,400 a month for a blue collar worker. Okay. If you work at somewhere like Egypt or India, it's a tenth of that. It is about $120 to $140 a month. Okay. So when you're working on products that are labor intensive, there's a huge cost differential to actually work in China. So that's why China is getting more and more specialized in more complex products, more technology products. It doesn't make as much sense if you want to make hoodies or T-shirts or those kinds of products that are just very raw material focused and labor focused to make it in China anymore. And that's why, for us, we make all of our T-shirts and hoodies and that stuff. We make that in Egypt. We make it in Pakistan nowadays. And then from China, also intellectual property protection is an issue, right? So a lot of times you can help protect your intellectual property by manufacturing outside China, especially if it's a foreign-owned factory. A lot of times foreigners nowadays are going and opening up factories in all these other countries, and it gives it a really, really nice touch because you get that Western mindset and Western quality and Western understanding of trends with the cost advantages of, that specific country and the labor and the raw materials and all those pieces. And that's why you're seeing, a lot of these factories pop up. But those factories tend to have very high minimums, and they only work with like the best brands in the world.
So you were talking about traveling 8 months to different countries, right? So you have a lot of experience, right? You've seen different cultures, different manufacturers. So what would you say, or like in terms of what is your number one country on your radar?
So number one country on my radar, it really depends on the product type, and it depends on the geopolitics of the world. Okay. So right now, I'm really liking Egypt for the specific reason is that there is a free trade agreement right now between the U.S. and Egypt, which means the goods are coming in tax-free. And you couple that with having a lot of access to low-cost cotton and low-cost materials within the region and low-cost labor, you're able to, let's say you want to make like a nice heavyweight hoodie or some nice premium t-shirts for a streetwear brand, by far the best pricing in the entire world right now is going to come out of Egypt. But if you want to make an iPhone, don't go to Egypt, right? So it's about, and it might not be there for that long, right? If the geopolitics change and then the free trade agreement closes, Egypt might not be the best place. It's probably the best place would be Pakistan because Pakistan has the raw materials. They're a net exporter of cotton. They produce the cotton in Pakistan, so they have that advantage on that front. Yeah. But now they have the disadvantage on the taxes front. So that's like the hard thing about my job. But the interesting part is being able to look at a project and be able to analyze the full global economy and global supply chain and decide based on the materials and the volume and what we're looking for in the timeline and be able to say, you know what, we should do this in Cambodia. We should do this in Sri Lanka. We should do this in India. We should do this in Colombia. We should do this in the right country. And I think that, that is the way that we're able to differentiate ourselves as an agency versus agents that are just focused on China.
Are these actually tips you're giving out for free? So let's say, for example, there's someone with like, say a startup or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. Actually watching this video right now and he's like, hey, I'm having this one product, but I'm not 100% sure if this supplier from this country makes the most sense. So can I actually text Isaac and like ask him real quick, like, hey, what do you think? Like, what is the best country for this?
Yeah, honestly, if you want to just ask me that quickly, I obviously have like longer, if you want to do like a full consulting session, we can do that as well. But yeah, if you just want that quick question, is this the best country for that? I'll help you out.
Guys, so just text him, yeah? Talking about your business model and all the things you're doing, right? There's probably a lot of like people sitting, watching this video and they think like, I want to do the same thing like Isaac, right? The sourcing guy. How can I do it? And like, would you say it's obviously this is something which is, if you don't have the network, you don't have the experience, right? Like what would be your tip to actually start with this, right?
Yeah, my tip is, it's really hard. It's very hard to get good at multiple categories. So what I would say is focus on one product and just stay as hyper niched as possible and expand from there. And just try to find market fit. So you want to really, really be able to just find a great manufacturer that you can go and rely on and sell the hell out of that product and find the advantage and be a sourcing company focused on, like one of my friends did that for neon signs and he went and built his company and just focused on neon signs and built a hyper profitable business with, one or two suppliers. And then from there, he's able to go and expand to other verticals to sell the same type of clientele and expand out. If you go and you're a generalist within product sourcing, that's when the problems arise because every product has its own ways of, their own complexities. So just, don't be a general sourcing agency.
Yeah, but it's been a pleasure to have you here on the third podcast from Talk and Do. And by the way, also, how can our listeners follow your journey or maybe get in touch with you? Also, maybe if they want to learn about the business, right? Is there any way to get in contact with you?
So I'm at The Sourcing Guy on TikTok and Instagram. I have thesourcingguy.com, which is a blog. There's a lot of resources on there. Thesourcingguide.com is my sourcing course if you want to learn from there. But, feel free to shoot me a DM, shoot me a follow. We're going to be posting a lot more content. And, I hope everyone can learn how to source easy.
Amazing. All right, everyone. I hope you find inspiration in today's episode. And if you're excited to meet more guests from all over the world with the craziest careers, make sure to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you won't miss out. Stay up to date. Follow us on all socials. And I will obviously also link all your socials in the description. And we would also love to hear from you in the comments. So what did you think about today's episode? Is there anything you want to tell Isaac, right? Maybe there's any questions. And then also, what do you want to see next on Talk and Do? So your ideas and feedback are obviously crucial as we build this journey together. And see you in the next episode of Talk and Do. And thank you so much, brother.
Thanks for having me.